I'm Chef Frank, this is Protocooks, and today we're making flatbreads with Cambozola cheese. Cambozola has been a sponsor for over a year now, and I'm happy to highlight their cheeses in today's video for our flatbreads. For a flatbread dough, this is what you're gonna need. Bread flour, extra virgin olive oil, sugar, salt, yeast, and water. One of the things I want to touch on before we make the dough is, what is the difference between a flatbread and a pizza? Well, I'm going to tell you this. All pizzas are flatbreads, but not all flatbreads are pizzas. Does it make sense? No, it doesn't make any sense. This is how I like to explain it, is that flatbreads are usually thin and cracker-like. You roll them out with a rolling pin. You're kind of getting all the air out of it. The dough also has less moisture in it. Whereas pizza dough has more moisture in it, and you roll it out with your hands to keep those bubbles in there so it gets nice and airy and nice and chewy. So yes, a pizza is a flatbread, but flatbread is something a little different. It's more cracker-like, more crunchy. My water is room temperature. Now, Penny taught me this method when it comes to pizza dough or to doughs like this, is she likes to add the water first, and this stops any dry stuff from sticking to the bottom of your bowl. So my water goes in, I'm gonna add my yeast. I'm using an instant yeast. My sugar goes in, and my extra virgin olive oil goes in. Now, a lot of people will wait for this yeast to proof. Most modern yeasts don't need to proof. Proof basically means proof of life. I'm just gonna whisk this all together just to make it a little more homogeneous and basically make sure the yeast is broken up. Once that's mixed together, I'm gonna add my flour on top, and I'm gonna add my salt on top of that. Okay? I don't like to mix my salt in with the yeast because the salt will not only inhibit the yeast, it might actually kill your yeast. Everything's in the bowl, let's put it onto the machine. I primarily put it on the machine to get the dough started. I like to work it by hand towards the end just to get a nice smooth dough. So let's get the hook on there. Let's crank it up and let's get it going. I feel like the dough is just a little dry, so I'm going to add a little more water just to get it going a little better. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. That looks much better. I'm going to let it go for about 5 minutes in the machine, and then I'll take it out and knead it on my table a little. Got rid of the machine. I'm going to put my dough onto my table. Put that aside. I have the container I'm going to ferment it in. I'm going to put a little bit of oil around just to kind of lubricate it so the dough doesn't really stick all that much. Put that aside. I have my bench scraper or dough scraper if I need it, and I'm just gonna give this a knead. And whenever I talk about kneading, I talk about the same thing, is don't really use your muscles, use your body weight. So push down, fold, turn, use your body weight and not necessarily your muscles. Right? So give it a good knead until you have a nice smooth dough. The machine's great for getting everything together, but I like to finish my kneading on the table just because you get to feel the dough. You'll see if there's enough moisture or if there's not enough moisture, and you can adjust at this point. But I think feeling the dough is really important, and I think we're looking pretty good now. So it's a nice smooth dough. Put it into my container. Just kind of swirl it around a little, get some of that oil on all sides. Give it a cover. Put it somewhere warm and let it double in size. My flatbread dough has doubled in size, and I'm gonna scale it out or weigh out the dough balls for the individual flatbread. So let's open her up. Let me hit it with some flour first. Just some flour on my table. Look at that. Ooh, that is a pretty dough. Look at that. Beautiful, nice and fluffy, right? Rose really nice, smells really good. Let's just get it out onto the table, right? Just cover it with a little bit of flour. I'm not gonna rework it at this point. Just redistribute it a little so that the yeast continues to work, but I'm not gonna rework it or re-knead it. I'm just gonna flatten it out into like a nice big square. And I'm gonna get a scale, and I'm gonna measure out my dough balls so I get a nice exact amount for each flatbread. Let's do about 4 ounces. And I'm just gonna put those aside and try and keep them kind of in the shape of my flatbread, which is gonna be long and oval. I like my flatbreads to be oval so they don't look like a pizza, you know? I want people to see that it's distinct from a pizza. And this is how professional bakers do it. They will scale their dough out so that everything comes out even. All right? I'm gonna save this for later and just make the dough that I have here. I'll make 6 flatbread blanks, and that's what I call them. I call them blanks because we're gonna bake these without anything on them and get them ready ahead of time before I top them. Let's roll it out, and I'm just gonna put a little flour on my table, and I'm gonna try and keep that shape. You see how I have a nice oval shape? Hit it with a little more flour. I'm not worried about putting too much flour on it now because I want this to be, I want it to move freely on the table, right? I don't want this to stick at all to the table or to my rolling pin. So you see I got that nice oval shape. Stretch it out that way a little, and then stretch it out nice and thin. And that's gonna basically be the size, right? It's gonna shrink up a little. I'm gonna put some flour on my sheet tray. And I'm gonna roll out all 6 of these before I bake them. I will stack these because they're not gonna sit for too long. If these are gonna sit for more than 5 minutes, you don't wanna stack them because they will stick together. That's looking good. Give it a shake, put it there. This takes a little bit of practice. When I worked in Manhattan, I worked at a restaurant called Layla, and we used to have to roll out pita bread for every single table. So it's something that I did thousands and thousands of pieces of. So it does take a little bit of practice, but again, if they're not perfectly shaped, you know, some food's not perfect. If you have too much flour on them, you can shake the flour off before you put them in the oven. All right, I think that's looking pretty good. So I have my dough blanks rolled out, ready to go. Let's go cook them in the oven. Right into my oven. My oven's at about 450 degrees. I've been preheating my stones for about 40 minutes, and I'm gonna let them cook until the bottom starts to brown slightly. These are about halfway done. All in all, they're gonna cook for about 5 to 7 minutes. All right, these look good. I'm gonna take them out, put them on a rack, let them cool, and then we can top them. All right, here are our blanks. And at this point, they are ready to go. We can put our toppings on and bake them. You could put them in the freezer. You can put them in the fridge and have them ready for when you are. Nice light brown on the bottom, nice and soft on top, ready to go. I want to take a minute here to talk about the sponsor of today's video. They've been a sponsor of mine for over a year now, Cambozola cheese. Their cheeses are amazing, and we're highlighting 2 of the cheeses in the video today. Cambozola Classic and Cambozola Black Label. 2 bloomy rind cheeses. They're super creamy. They're both triple cream cheeses. And the main difference between the 2 of these is that the Cambozola is a lighter blue. It's not as sharp. It's still super creamy. It has a nice white edible rind. It's kind of a beginner's blue cheese where, you know, maybe you're not so sure you like blue, but you get this beautiful kind of creamy mouthfeel to this and a little bit of kick of blue. And the Cambozola Black Label has that full blue cheese flavor with kind of a gray rind. It's sharp, it's pungent, and still super creamy. Now that our blanks are ready, let's talk about what we're gonna put on top of them. For one of our flatbreads, we're going to use caramelized onions, bacon, and Cambozola cheese. For the other one, we're gonna do arugula, sherry vinegar, shallots, apple, and Cambozola Black Label. For the first flatbread, I'm gonna start with a base of my caramelized onions. My caramelized onions have oil, onions, salt, pepper, and just a little bit of rosemary in them. So that's my base. And with this flatbread, I'm gonna go all the way to the edge. And then I'm gonna take my bacon and put my bacon on. And the cheese is gonna go on later, after it comes out of the oven. I'm gonna slice the cheese really thin and let it melt over the top. For the second flatbread, I'm gonna take the Cambozola Black Label, and that's gonna be my base. So I'm gonna spread this. Look at that, look how creamy and beautiful that is. And I chose this for the second flatbread because it's sharp. I'm gonna put some sweet stuff with it, some sweet apple. I'm gonna put some shallots on top, they'll caramelize. And then I'm gonna give some bitter arugula to cut that kind of sharpness of the blue. I'm gonna take some of those shallots, nice raw shallots, don't need to be cooked. And then I'm gonna put the apple and the arugula on afterwards. All right, let's get these in the oven. I'm gonna take both of these babies, put them on a sheet tray, and bring them over to the oven. I'm gonna put them in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes until they're nice and crispy on the bottom and melty on top. All right, these are done. I'm gonna take them off of my tray. Look at how lovely that cheese is, caramelized. And let's garnish them up. For the bacon and onion, I'm gonna take the Cambozola, and I'm just gonna put this on top and slice it thin and let it melt into the flatbread, and then we'll cut it later. Just nice big chunks of cheese. Put that on top. All right. And for the black label, this is what I'm gonna do. A little black pepper, a little bit of salt. Get me some of this apple. If you're ever gonna put apples in salads, you should cut them right when you're mixing the salad. You should not cut them ahead and store them in water. It is not good, it is not delicious. So cut your apples as you need them, right? I'm gonna put my matchsticks of apples in here. I have a little bit of sherry vinegar. Sherry vinegar is one of my favorite vinegars. A little bit of extra virgin olive oil. Let's hit it with a little more salt. Give this a nice toss. So I'll have those nice sweet apples, sharp vinegar, and peppery arugula on top of this beautiful flatbread. Look at that. Look at that. And now for my favorite time, hashtag time to taste. Hashtag. You can see that the cheese has melted beautifully on our bacon and onion flatbread. And look at that beautiful salad on here, okay? Let me give it a taste. It's crispy, it's sweet, a little bit creamy. Absolutely delicious. If you serve this at a party, people will come up and hug you. Let's try the other one. That crunchiness of the apple, the sweetness of the apple, and that sharp blue cheese flavor from the black label is absolutely amazing. They pair so well together. The arugula gives you like a little bit of a peppery bite. Again, you're gonna get hugs for this. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. We have merch in the description down below. We have a P.O. box down there as well. I wanna thank my Patreon patrons for supporting us. At the risk of sounding cheesy, I wanna say thank you, Cambozola, for your support. We look forward to working with you in the future. I'm Chef Frank. This is Protocooks. Have a good one.